Tonight, when the sun goes down, you are going to flip a switch. Light will flood the room and you will not think twice about it. But for almost the entire span of human existence, that switch did not exist. When the sun set, the world went dark. Not dim, not dusky. Completely, totally, irreversibly dark. And what your ancestors did in that darkness for hundreds of thousands of years is nothing like what you do now. Here is where it gets strange. Researchers studying the last remaining hunter-gatherer groups on Earth, people who still live without electricity, expected to find something simple. Sleep when dark, wake when light. A human body on a timer. What they found instead rewrote everything we thought we knew about night, rest, and the human mind. Your brain did not evolve to simply shut off at sundown. It evolved to come alive. Jerome Siegel at UCLA spent years studying the Hadza of Tanzania, the San Bushmen of the Kalahari, and the Tsimane of Bolivia, 3 groups living roughly as humans did before artificial light. He tracked their sleep, their waking hours, and their behavior across different seasons. The results shocked his team. These groups did not sleep when darkness arrived. They stayed awake for 2 to 4 hours after sunset, every single night. They gathered, they talked, they told stories. Night was not the end of the day. Night was a different kind of day entirely. Think about what darkness actually meant to your ancestors. It meant the predators woke up. Lions, hyenas, leopards. Every large mammal that could kill a human being operated primarily at night. Darkness was not a neutral absence of light. It was a threat environment. And your ancestors had exactly one weapon against it: fire. The campfire changed everything. Anthropologist Polly Wiessner at the University of Utah spent decades studying the Bushmen of Botswana. She recorded thousands of hours of conversation, daytime conversations, evening conversations, and nighttime conversations by firelight. The difference was extraordinary. During the day, people talked about practical things: food, tools, complaints, work, useful information, survival data. At night, by the fire, something shifted. 80% of nighttime conversation was stories, not instructions, not complaints, stories. Narratives about people who were not present, about events that happened far away, about supernatural forces and moral lessons and what it means to be human. Your ancestors sat around that fire and told a story about a person who did a brave thing, or a terrible thing, and what happened next. And every person listening updated their mental model of the world. This is where your imagination came from, not from daytime life, which was direct, sensory, and immediate, but from nighttime life, which was abstract, narrative, and social. The fire created a second world, a world made entirely of words and images conjured in the mind. Wiessner called it the theater of the night. She was not being poetic, she was being precise. Your ancestors used firelight to rehearse scenarios they had never experienced. A young person who had never fought a predator could sit by the fire and hear a story about someone who had and absorbed the lesson without paying the price. This is how culture transmitted faster than genes. You did not need to live through a thing to learn from it. You only needed to listen to someone describe it in the flickering dark with your whole nervous system alert and alive. Now think about what that did to the human brain over hundreds of thousands of years. Every night, fire. Every night, stories. Every night, your brain running simulations of worlds it could not directly see. The neurologist Antonio Damasio has argued that human consciousness itself, the sense of a continuous self with a past and a future, emerged from exactly this kind of narrative processing. The capacity to say, I was there. That happened. Here is what it meant. Here is what comes next. You are not just a body that sleeps and wakes. You are a story that tells itself to itself every night by the fire. But there is more. Because the night was not only about stories, it was about something more ancient than language. Before fire became a gathering space, before it became a stage for narrative, it was a survival tool with a very specific psychological effect. Researcher Michael Chazan at the University of Toronto studies some of the oldest known evidence of controlled fire use. Sites in South Africa's Wonderwerk Cave dating back 1 million years. At that depth of time, your ancestors were not Homo sapiens, they were Homo erectus, and they were managing fire. What does sitting by a fire actually do to your nervous system? Psychologist Christopher Lynn at the University of Alabama ran a series of experiments in which participants sat and watched fire. Real fire, not video, not ambient sound, actual burning, while their blood pressure was measured. The result was consistent and clear. Watching fire lowered blood pressure, slowed the heart, triggered a deep parasympathetic response, the biological state your body enters when it feels safe enough to rest, to open, to be social. Your nervous system recognizes fire as a signal, not danger, safety, the opposite of the fear response. Because for 1 million years, fire meant the predators could not get in. It meant your group was gathered. It meant you were not alone in the dark. This is why you feel something watching a fireplace that you cannot fully explain. Your body is running an ancient program. The fire says, relax. The fire says, you survived another day. The fire says, now we can talk. And talk they did. But about what, exactly? The stories your ancestors told at night were not random entertainment. Evolutionary psychologist Robin Dunbar at Oxford has argued that narrative, especially social narrative about other people, was the primary mechanism by which large human groups maintain trust. You cannot groom more than about 5 or 6 people at once, but you can tell a story to 20. You can tell a story to 100. You can encode social rules, moral expectations, reputation data, and emotional norms into a single narrative and transmit it to an entire group in one sitting. Gossip was not a flaw in human nature. It was the network protocol. Who did what? Who can be trusted? Who broke a rule? Who was brave? Who was generous? Who took more than their share? Every night by the fire, your ancestors ran a social audit of the entire group. The stories calibrated everyone's behavior. They maintained the moral architecture of the community without a single written law. Your instinct to want to know what is happening in other people's lives, the pull towards social information about people not present, is not a distraction. It is an ancient maintenance function. Your brain is running the same program it ran at the fire, every night, for hundreds of thousands of years. It is looking for the social data it evolved to need. Now here is the twist. Here is the thing that should stop you cold. All of this, the fire, the stories, the social bonding, the imagination, the trust network, the parasympathetic calm, happened in darkness. Without screens, without scrolling, without the blue spectrum light that now floods your room at 11 at night and tells your circadian system that it is still noon. Siegel's sleep research found something else. The hunter-gatherers he studied fell asleep on average at around 10 p.m., not at sunset, but they woke up fully refreshed after about 6.5 to 7.5 hours. No insomnia, no lying awake at 3 a.m., no racing thoughts, no fragmented sleep, because their bodies had spent the evening exactly as they were designed, slowly winding down around firelight, bodies warm, minds engaged but calm, nervous systems receiving the ancient signal. You are safe. You are with your people. The predators cannot reach you. The night was not a problem your ancestors endured. It was a technology they used. The dark itself served a function. There is research now showing that complete darkness, not just dim light, but genuine dark, is required for full melatonin release, which is not only a sleep hormone, but an immune regulator and cellular repair signal. Your body does its most essential maintenance work in total darkness. Your ancestors slept in it every night. You sleep in a room lit by the standby glow of 6 different devices. You have not changed. The night has. And this is where it lands. Tonight, when the sun goes down, you will flip a switch. Light will flood the room. A screen will glow. The ancient signal, fire, safety, story, people, will be replaced by something that looks like activity but carries none of the weight. Your ancestors looked into the fire and saw each other's faces. They heard a voice. They felt the warmth. Their blood pressure dropped. They told a story. They learned something about being human without spending a single second scrolling. You still have that program running inside you. Every time you feel the pull toward candlelight, every time a campfire holds your attention longer than it should, every time a good story told by another person, not a screen, a person, pulls you into a state of total presence. That is not nostalgia. That is memory. Ancient memory. Encoded in your nervous system by a million years of nights spent gathered in the dark. The switch is on. The lights are bright. But somewhere in the back of your very modern brain, there is still a fire burning. And it has been waiting for you to come back to it every single night.